Hey everyone, welcome back to another daily recap. Apologies, I couldn't record yesterday because yesterday's game was such a roller coaster that I needed some time to reflect on what happened. Anyways, I'm glad to be back, and I will share my today's game first, and then yesterday's game, and also probably like a quick view at the standings and probably my predictions for tomorrow's round. All right, let's begin without any further ado. So today I was playing with the reigning British chess champion, Grandmaster Gawain Jones. Against Gawain, I never played him before. I never played even actually the top English players. I played against David Howell last year, and now this time I'm playing with Gawain. So Gawain had a upsetting round 2 loss, but then he's kind of coming back. So I was very optimistic about my chances, and we'll see in the game how it went. So I started with d4, and I was expecting King's Indian from Gawain. That's his favorite opening, and he has written 2 books on it. I went for this bishop d3 interesting version. By the way, I'd like to maybe only show the critical moments, and I'll kind of fly through a bit because there are a lot of interesting moments, but I want to kind of give you an overview of the game. So I tested this very interesting line with bishop d3, and we don't get a traditional King's Indian sort of structures. Rather, we have a very open position. And after a few moves, we got a very open position, and it was really important for someone, whoever attacks first has the better advantage. And I kind of failed to do that, and Gawain had a really nice position. His bishop on g7 was tremendously well, and he got his third piece, bishop c4. Everything was looking great for him. And then we slowly got into a position where I was like completely lost. He played h5, h4. Sorry, I'm kind of going too quickly about this, but honestly, I think Gawain played really well, and I couldn't really find my own to stabilize the position at all. So it was always worse, and then we were closing to the time control. Also, I was playing really slowly throughout the game, which was kind of disappointing, but then things changed dramatically. So we reached the 40th move. It looked very hopeless. I sacked another pawn so that my rook on c4 would have some attacking chances with h4, and at this point check, and here rook takes g2, take, rook g3, rook c6, and here I started to be optimistic. I'll tell you why. We're gonna reach, so this is my thinking during the game. If I'm able to trade off a5 for d5 and bring my king closer to these f7 and h4 pawns, I can reach a theoretically drawn endgame. And for those who are not aware of this, there's a special case when you're 2 pawns down, but if the pawns, your opponent's pawns, are a bishop pawn and a rook pawn, you have a theoretically drawn position. But it's one of the hardest endgames to ever kind of understand, because it's not that intuitive, because as we will see that I was kind of there, but I missed it at the end. So we'll get through that. So the basic point was I'll push the d pawn and win the a pawn. I brought my king closer to the pawn, so this was step 1. Everything fine and well, and then I gave it up. Now here we reached this critical position. I was low on time. I wish I had probably a few more minutes, but I kept my rook here, check, and I went rook b1. Everything was still okay here, and rook h2 was a good move. And yeah, this was the moment. This idea, if I had known this, probably the game would have gone more longer, but it's by no means it's a complete draw. So engines till here, it says dead equal. Here I had to find king g1. Now what's white's idea? White's idea is to play king h2 and then pushing the rooks towards the left and then tucking the king in. And generally, sometimes your king should be here, sometimes it should be here. That's why it makes this endgame so tricky to defend. So I had to play king g1, and even I had this opportunity later. The point is that whenever for instance, I was checking this, let's say a nice trick line for white is to play this rook g2 check. This is a stalemate trick I'm trying to gain, because if I don't know that trick, he can just play rook f3 and it's winning on the spot. So this was the idea I had to see, but I missed it. But still I had another chance. So where was that? I went king g3. I thought I should do an opposition to the king, but that clearly fails. And yeah, this was still losing as well. Oh, actually this was the last moment, and then I lost. But I had to play king g1. This was really critical. But after a few moves, oops, sorry. A few moves, like, so I went king g3, going back and forward, and now this was over, and I lost the game. So definitely I need to learn my endgame theory, but it was kind of heartbreaking that after such a poor game, I was suddenly back in shape to make a draw, but obviously it was very far from a draw, but I'm kind of happy that I at least reached that position, but definitely not a great game my side. But yeah, I eventually lost. And as after the game I spoke to Gawain, and he said he actually faced this endgame with the color I am on, where he was defending, and he quickly lost too. One interesting point he was mentioning is that with the pawn on f7, it does give black more winning chances. And this is quite a valid reason. I'll tell you why he said that. So with the pawn on f7, any pawn endgame would obviously be winning, because not only, well, in this case, the king is coming, but even if a situation like king here, 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 it's winning because I'll always have this tempo at some point. But generally, yeah, having a very backward passed pawn helps. So that was my game. I think endgame wise I should improve, but probably, yeah, I was kind of outplayed in the middle game, and Gawain just did his magic, what he does usually. So that was a disappointing result. But let's now check my yesterday's game. All right, moving on to my yesterday's game. Yesterday's game, I was paired against Richard Pert. Richard is an international master, and his twin brother is a grandmaster. And Richard actually recently made a GM norm. I don't know if it's his second, first, or third, but I heard it was his GM norm after a long time. And Richard is a father of two chess players. His son plays, and I think he's playing in this tournament, and his daughter also plays, but she's not playing in this tournament. But very strong chess family. So previously I played with Richard and I won that game with the white pieces, so I was definitely looking forward to kind of keep the plus score, and we'll see how this game goes. So he went with a Trompowsky, and he played knight d2, which I was not aware of. I took a lot of time in the opening, and I kind of ended in a worse position out of the opening. At some point we had these trades, and since I was taking a lot of time, Richard admitted that he thought he's going to be winning at some point. So therefore, he didn't take much time, and he gave a lot of pawns to me. So I'm a pawn up at this stage, but my king is kind of looking weak. But then at some point, I kind of consolidated, and it was just for me to start pushing my pawns or start kind of gaining some play, because all this till this point, I was kind of defending to Richard's ideas. So everything was protected. Got my queen, and now my queen is looking towards the king, and this really kind of tempted me to say, all right, this is going to be winning. However, this was the 39th move, and I really wasn't in a right frame of mind. I just wanted to make a quick move. I went boom, knight a3 check. I just missed that I had rook takes d5. I just simply missed it. Probably I was thinking takes. My queen, his queen was on f2, so maybe it's a checkmate, but that's an excuse. Honestly, if I had taken some time, I would have seen this would have been a simple pawn up, and this would have been a clearly winning game, because now I'm 2 pawns up. His king is really weak. So I missed this. I gave a check. It looks very scary from white's perspective, but this knight, even though, as they say, knight in the rim is dim, it's actually controlling these key squares, b2 and c3. So it's very scary for white as well. It's not over, but I kind of was disappointed after we reached 40th move. So both of us had additional 30 minutes, and now we had some time to breathe and think. Queen takes a4, queen c3. These two pawns are weak now. Again, I was kind of losing hope on this position, but then I thought, let's try to kind of activate my rook. And this moment, I should have played rook f3, with the brilliant idea that if he takes, I can give a check, win back one rook, and then win back the second one. But obviously, Richard wouldn't have fallen for that. He would have played rook d3. Then the difference is I take, and now I'll play rook f8. As you'll see in the game, I played something similar, but with this structural change, the king is much more open. Once he plays rook e1, I can play queen e2, and then just push my h-pawn, and once the rook gets distracted, I can maybe pull in this rook, or just basically promote. This queen, even though it's doing an amazing job of defending these squares, which keeps the king safe, the queen is not a good defender. I mean, it has much more potential than defending. So I missed this chance. I played takes, and now rook f8. Here, Richard found a very practical decision that, hey, this king on d1 won't survive if you don't exchange queens. So we went queen e3, and I missed this, and I thought the rook endgame should be winning as well, but Richard found some really nice moves. And suddenly my rook is a bit stuck. These pawns are quite advanced, and this c7 pawn is going to be problematic to defend. And Richard strikes exactly for that. He went king d4, I went rook a5. I kind of toggled between these moves. And at this point, I didn't want to repeat king a7. He could have claimed a repetition, so I just went c6. And this was the start of my troubles. So from a game I thought I was not at all doing well in the opening, got a good middle game, got a pawn up, missed a chance to be 2 pawns up. Then we reached this position where I was kind of kicking myself, like, why did I play c6? Now the problem is white is close to winning if I don't find the right moves. Check, I went king b5, and yeah, here there were like moves like d7, rook f8. Now check. This would have been better. My rook is a bit inactive now, but what happened in the game was he first took the pawn, we gave a check, and this moment again I need to use my h-pawn. This was really important because now white has something to worry about. So if the king moves, h3, rook, let's say b2, I go king a3. Once the rook diverts, my king is kind of released, and this should be again a nice, easy draw. But what happened in the game was I was greedy. I wanted to take all of his pawns, but that was not the right strategy. Here, after rook takes c6 was a blunder. Blunder in the sense that he gave up the winning chance, but rook b8, the key insight I learned from this game, which I wasn't aware that it's really good to kind of keep this king locked in. And I'll tell you why. Not all the times it's good, but since I have many pawns, these stalemate tricks never work. So for example, h4, queen. I mean, obviously it's a bit scary to have all these pawns, but it doesn't make much difference. So white will definitely win this, but rather he needs to get the king closer. So he might play king e5. Maybe I go king d3, king d4, check. When king d3, a3, rook b8. And I'll tell you what stalemate idea I was talking about. So ideally, this would have been a kind of a stalemate, but since I have many pawns, it's going to be a checkmate. So yeah. So in this position we got so far. So apologies, but here I took the pawn. So I was really happy, and here I had to find a very important move. This was probably the most critical move to survive in this game. to save the game was king b5. So I'm pushing my king out of the way of the pawn so it rolls, but also guards this key a6 square. And now white needs to waste 2 tempies to get to the a file, which is where this pawn is going to promote. What I did was I felt the king should go as farther as possible so that it'll help my pawn to queen. I went king b3, but that was a terrible mistake. Check with a tempo. And it's very important to understand in rook endgames and these rook pawn games, checks and attacking moves where you gain tempos is very critical. King b5. And now here Richard made the final mistake. This was his game. If he had just played rook a8. The point is, if I simply roll down my pawns, and it doesn't make much difference when you push this pawn because the rook is going to always come in there. Just I need to figure out this king. Let's say if I just move only this, check here, king c3, and now just rook h8, and now this is winning. So where was I? Yes, so this was a critical moment. He just had to play rook a8 and it would have been fine. But after rook h6, and mind you, we both weren't, I guess I could even say for Richard as well, we hadn't a clue what was happening because there were so many phases of the game where there were a lot of different material imbalances. We wouldn't say imbalances, but actually there were no imbalances per se, but different kind of assessment of the positions. One time I was one pawn up, then it was equal, then we had a weak king, and all those sort of things happened. But now we reached a completely different kind of scenario where it's a pawn race. And luckily enough, I was just in time and it was a draw. So there's no chance for white to kind of do this because they can always queen and then check, and he has to take it at some point. And it's a draw. So we both agreed for a draw after rook takes, and well, not agreed, but it was yeah, it was the king draw. So that was 2 roller coaster games for you. So this was my yesterday's game and today Gawain's game. So definitely I need to learn my end games. I think it's kind of case for everyone, but I guess it's important that to reach to the next level, endgames really needs to kind of play to your strength. Anyways, before we wrap up this video, let's take a look at the standings and the tomorrow's pairings, and probably I'll give my prediction as well. All right, let's head to it. All right, so this is the standings after round 6. We have Mickey Adams with a sole lead with half a point extra out of a pack of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 players with 4.5. So definitely this tournament is getting exciting. Though so I think Michael and Nikita played in round 6 today's game, and that ended in a draw. So that was one heavy fight match. We are yet to see Gawain playing with these guys, Nikita and Mickey. I think Gawain was kind of coming from the bottom, but now he's in the race for the championship too. So yeah, he'll be paired against them, and I think then the dust will settle. I think currently it's still everyone's up for grabs to get the crown. So, and there are few like really nice performances. We can see that Yi Chen Han is doing extremely well. He's kind of almost about to score his GM norm as well. Then there's Supertit. He's also doing quite well. So I think, and Siva is doing well too. So they're all are just IMs. Well, Supertit is just an FM, and they're on their way to their GM norms as well. So let's see now the pairings for tomorrow. So we see that Mickey is going to play with Daniel Fernandez. Yichenhan Han, Nikita, Gawain Sapor Messi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. And then Amit versus Supratit. Okay, what's my predictions? Michael Adams versus Daniel. I don't remember what was the result last year or the year before, because but I think Michael will have a good chance. So I would choose Michael the favorite, and I think he'll win. Han Yishen and Nikita. I think Han Yishen is quite solid with white, so I think the game might be a draw. And then we have Gawain and Messi. That's a tough game. I think Gawain will win. Amit and Supratit. I think Amit will win. So that's my predictions of the top 4 boards. Definitely there's a lot of other players to kind of watch out for. Matthew Wadsworth, the recent, actually he's the latest Grandmaster of England. Apologies. Oh, sorry. So my title was wrong when I was recording, but nevertheless, actually in this tournament, I met Matthew and he said that in this tournament he's still listed as an IM. So in chess results it's still an IM, but he's a GM officially on FIDE now, and probably from the next tournament he will have GM beside his name. And so where am I? I'm at 3.5 points, so I'm not even in the top 25. I'm here on the 36th rank, and the standings, I'm not sure if they're exactly correctly done, but there's no tie breaks in this tournament. So it's either, well, the tie break is kind of rating, but that doesn't matter because in terms of prize sharing, everything is, in terms of prizes, everything is shared. So the tie breaks don't take effect, and therefore there's no tie breaks in this tournament. So that's the case. I could be wrong. I'm just thinking because I don't see any like book holes or those fancy names on the chess results page. So I'm here, and so a lot of 3 more rounds, so definitely there is scope to come back on the top. Next round starts in 15 hours, guys. I'll probably prepare. Oh, and by the way, so tomorrow I'm playing with a talented English junior, Jude Shersby. Trisha played with Jude, I think 2 years ago, and he definitely improved a lot. He's now 2300. He played well in the English championships as well. We'll see how that game goes. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm again white, so this is kind of a good news that after a loss I don't need to kind of play with the black pieces. I have white. I can do my stuff, what I want to do. So it'll be interesting. Let's see how it goes. The final 3 rounds, guys, we'll try to do well. Thank you, and please watch, follow me and everything, and I'm really thankful for your support. I think the channel has grown tremendously well over this past few days, so thanks for your support, guys. It means a lot, and keep following me and keep rooting for me. All right, thank you. See you. Bye bye.